And when you own a company, you have employees, then you have customers. You have to put on a whole different mindset and a different vernacular and a different level of how you speak to them. Well, then you have your vendors. And, hopefully they're wanting you just as much as you want them, but you still, right? Then you have to talk to your banker, and there's all these people involved. And with each of these people and each of these vendors, you need to accomplish something.
Welcome to P&L, Priorities and Lifestyle, with your host, Rob Schultz. Rob is the founder and president of Schultz Wealth. All opinions expressed by Rob and his guests are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinion of Schultz Wealth Limited. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon for investment decisions. Please refer to our website for more information.
Welcome everybody to P&L, Priorities and Lifestyle. I'm your host, Rob Schultz, and today I have Alex Vantarakis. Thanks for coming, Alex.
Absolutely. Glad to be here.
I said that right?
Absolutely. I was very surprised. Very happily surprised.
Well, two reasons. One is I wanted to get your last name right because you're known as Alex V all around here. And two, I grew up in a small farming community in Central Texas, and I assume Vantarakis, that sounds Czechoslovakian. Mm-hmm. Is that right?
No.
No? What is it?
I think you asked me that before. It's Greek.
It's Greek?
Yeah.
Okay.
K-I-S and O-U-S is usually Greek.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where'd you grow up?
I was born in Montreal, but I grew up in Boston.
You were born in Montreal? Mm-hmm. I've always wanted to go to Montreal.
Beautiful. Cold, but beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
3 months out of the year, it's a great place to be.
That's actually about right.
Yeah. Well, how'd you get into this crazy business of working with business owners towards selling? Because you're a business broker extraordinary. You work with business owners who are looking to sell, right? Help them get ready and go to market.
Yep, absolutely. So the reason why I grew up in Montreal and moved to Boston is my parents were immigrants and they tried to get into the States and they couldn't, so they went to Canada first.
Okay.
And they got into the States by buying half of a pizza place that my uncle owned.
Okay.
And then once I got to the States, they sold that and they bought a little convenience store. And I had always grown up around my parents doing something entrepreneurial. There was always buying and selling some business. So it was always very exciting to me. So when I finally had an opportunity to do something, I was sitting at my desk at a job one day and I was not a good employee.
Why is that?
I got all my work done when I was supposed to get it done.
Yeah.
And then the rest was kind of my time. I didn't really want to give too much. I was a diamond in the rough. I just wasn't in the right place. I needed to be on my own.
So what was this job that you were doing when you had this?
So I was working at a Tricon, which was Yum Brands. I was in strategic purchasing. We actually would buy all the cheese and tomatoes and the products for Pizza Hut and Taco Bell and KFC. And, luckily, this was back in 98. There was a website out there called Biz Buy Sell, and it's sort of like an MLS system for businesses. So I had a certain amount of money down payment, and there's a field that says down payment required. So I sorted by that field because I only had $35,000 to put down. And I found a little small maid company. It was in McKinney, Texas. Did about $200,000 a year, $60,000 in cash flow. Was selling for $90,000 whole dollars. That wasn't the down payment. That was the total amount.
That was the total amount.
Was so
you bought a business for $90,000.
$90,000. I'll never forget. I was making $52,421 a year at that time, and the business said that it made $60,000 a year. So I naively
I'm coming
thought,
out great.
This is
perfect.
Yeah, this is going to be easier than working for the man. So I basically bought the business owner financing. There was a broker involved. And I was enthralled with the process of analyzing the business and figuring out what cash flow was and what added value. And I was asking good questions according to the broker. And I just remember thinking, man, this guy's job this is really cool. He's going to make a commission from doing this. Then I ran the business, and I'll fast forward and then work backwards. But then I went to sell it. I used the same guy. and I got way more involved in that process then.
Okay.
And that kind of bread in the middle of that sandwich is kind of what got me fascinated. Owning the business was fun. There was a lot of pitfalls, which I'm more than happy to tell you about. I have an undergrad and an MBA in finance, and I didn't learn jack diddly until I owned my own business.
Yeah.
I learned all the ways,
numbers, all that kind of stuff.
All the ways you can mess up a small business when you don't know anything. I probably touched on every single one of them. The fact that business still existed and sold and is prospering is great, but it's a miracle. I mean, it's amazing how much buyers, and that's why, and I don't want to get ahead of it, but in my business, we provide buy-side help.
Yeah.
So normally most people, they'll help you sell a business. We also provide a lot of buy-side help. Part of the reason is obviously it's an income-producing line of business, but more importantly, I want to protect the guys that were just like me. I thought I knew everything. I didn't need anybody's help, and I get in there and I didn't know what I was doing.
Oh, I see. Okay. So that's pretty cool that first of all, that you found out what you really wanted to do in life accidentally through just kind of going through the process and realized that that's the kind of business that you want to have. And the other is you said, well, you were all educated up, for this kind of thing. Finance, MBA, that's what you're supposed to do, right?
Entrepreneur. My major actually in MBA was entrepreneurial.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, not quite sure how you can't teach entrepreneurship, by the way, but somehow there's a degree on entrepreneurship.
There certainly are some skills, though, and it sounds like you and I probably agree that a lot of those skills are not necessarily taught, through, I guess you could say, formal education.
Right.
For instance, what pops up into my mind is just people skills. That's something that is so important, right? When you're running a company that has people in it.
Yep.
How are you set up for that?
So, it's funny. People don't realize, and I say this all the time, it's so funny you bring it up. Whenever you're dealing with a company, when you say a company, first of all, there's always an owner of that company.
A person.
There's always one person that exists, just like you or I. When you go, when your HVAC isn't going well and you call the HVAC company and you want to talk to the owner, you're talking to you or I. It's just another guy trying to figure it out.
A human being.
And that's what a lot of people don't realize. And when you own a company, you have employees. They have certain needs and wants and desires and a certain emotional and psychological way to speak to them as employees. Then you have customers. You have to put on a whole different mindset and a different vernacular and a different level of how you speak to them. Well, then you have your vendors. And, hopefully they're wanting you just as much as you want them, but you still, right? Then you have to talk to your banker, and there's all these people involved. And with each of these people and each of these vendors, you need to accomplish something. So somehow you need to be smart enough to know, hey, I can't pay my vendor this month. What am I going to tell him to make sure that he doesn't cut off my supplies for next month?
Yeah.
What words do I need to use?
Communication. Yeah.
And the same with everybody else, with the employees. The employee that says, Johnny's not treating me right. Have no proof, have no record. Somebody just feels that. How do you handle that? Where do you learn how to? Now, you probably learned that from having kids. And how to handle two different disputes.
That's one way to learn it. The other is just like you said. I mean, I think it's hard to learn it in a formal setting. You have to learn it by doing it. The example around here is, we have a couple of hundred, I don't know, at least meetings with clients, right? And we bring in young guys like Austin 5 years ago, Jared this last year, and the skills that they need are the ones in negotiation within a meeting. How do they get that? They have to be in the meeting.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
And so many, I think, investment management shops don't let their next generation into those meetings soon enough. And we try to do that from day one. Clients think it's awesome. They don't care. The first thing you think is that Well, the client doesn't want somebody else in there they don't know. They're usually totally cool with it, and they contribute to a really high degree. So yeah, just trying to teach those people skills to the next generation is a big thing here. I would say that at any level in business, it's about that communication. You can know, like, backwards and forwards, all those numbers, like you said, like, in your business, you have all these numbers associated with, there's a value on this business, right? That you're either going to sell or that you're going to help somebody buy. Well, you have to be able to communicate that somehow in a way that it makes sense and it's appealing.
Right. Well, it's funny you say that. One of our secret sauces, competitive advantage, whatever fancy lingo you want to use, what sets us apart is actually our marketing packages, or a SIM, they're called.
SIM, what?
Confidential Information Memorandum.
Okay.
That's the fancy term. I call it a marketing package. But essentially, it's the documents that you provide when a buyer says, I'm interested in finding out more in the business, and they sign a confidentiality agreement. And that SIM, going back to your point about understanding what it is, the product that you have, and communicating, is designed knowing for 25 years what buyers want to see, how they want to see it, what questions should already be asked and answered, is what makes our process easier and smoother, is we spend an inordinate amount of time just gathering that document. So we'll sit with sellers, 2 to 4 weeks and just bombard them with questions. One question begets another question, right? I'll give you good examples. There's standard questions to ask. Do you have any customers that are over 20%?
Absolutely. Customer concentration.
Right. Yeah. And if they say no, then that's an easy checkbox. We move on. And in our mind, we place a check in the value box. Now, somebody says, I absolutely do. It makes my life so much easier. I only have 3 main customers. That all of a sudden is in the discounted value box.
Absolutely.
And
because you lose one of those customers, and that business is not worth what it was before.
First of all, that question should be a basic question that's answered, but that answer should then result more questions. Okay. All right. We don't have a good scenario, but can we at least paint around this horrible scenario? How long have we had those clients? Oh, well, they've been with us for 30 years. Okay, wonderful. That shifts it a little bit more into the good box.
Do we have contracts with those clients?
Do we have long-term? Well, yes, I just happen to have 5-year contracts. Okay, now it shifts a little bit more. And that is part of, you said, how do you get experience? Only through experience. How do we know to ask these questions? There is such an inordinate amount of questions and question trees that can come from questions that can never be taught, that are just a matter of experience.
Yeah.
And then after a while, your brain just works a certain way. Just like, when some people are showing you their portfolio of investments, you immediately can look at the information and start guiding and question. Bang, bang, bang. It's second nature to you.
Right.
Same thing with us. And if anybody's good in their career, whatever, you can substitute their career and put it into the way that we're describing. And that really, experience, when I didn't have experience, I probably would have said, you don't need experience to do what I do. But now that I have so much experience, I caution people to work with somebody with less, not because they're not going to try really hard, but the hurdles that exist, you don't know them when you've been in business for very little. And the sooner you identify those hurdles, the sooner you're able to overcome them, right?
Yeah.
Give you an example. The last thing you want to do is have something really bad about the business not become known until you're about to go to closing.
That sounds terrible.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
So making sure that you have the skill set to identify everything, jam it in the front of the process.
Yeah. And
then constantly be looking for what the landmines are from our sides. We don't know what's going on the buyer side, but if the seller says, they tell me that, some sellers try to tell me this, hey, I think I'm going to be down this month. Let's not tell the buyers.
Okay.
Well, they're going to find out.
Absolutely.
So would we rather that we tell them now and we tell them, listen, it's going to be down, but this is what has happened. Mm-hmm. The revenue is going to be pushed to this, that, as opposed to you just provide somebody a financial with numbers that are down and you let their imagination go wild.
Right.
Again, these are very, very, very small examples of things that luckily to us at the Vant Group is basic.
Yeah.
But take a lot of time to create those basic building blocks, because selling a business is about trust. You know that. Doing financial planning is all about trust.
Yeah.
The seller has to trust the buyer. The buyer has to trust the seller, and both of those people have to trust the investment banker. When that works, it's a smooth deal. When you hear horror stories, one of those three people, or the attorneys, one of the five people, doesn't know what they're doing.
Or there's a breakdown of trust.
There's a breakdown of trust or communication.
Right. Mm-hmm. Let's go back to your first business venture, where you discovered that you really enjoyed being an investment banker through the process, and you bought this business. You looked at the numbers. You did the whole deal. What do you wish you had known prior to buying that business? Like you knew all the numbers and all that kind of stuff. And we already talked about that maybe there were some soft skills in there that you didn't realize that you needed to develop. What else do you think that you wish you had known prior to buying that business?
I will tell you very specific examples to that deal.
Okay.
And then just in general. You'll understand what I mean.
All right, let's hear it.
Specifically, it would have been important for me to know that once I bought that business, that the head manager's husband didn't want her working for a guy and made her quit a week in.
This was a key person.
That was the manager.
Okay. Yes. And they were gone within a week.
1 week.
Okay.
Yeah. I probably, that would have been good information. Now, I don't think anybody kept anything from me. I don't think the owner, first of all, I didn't get to go and, when you buy a business, you don't get to interview the employees before closing.
Right.
Especially on a small transaction like this.
Yeah.
So therefore, I relied everything on the seller. Mm-hmm. Well, reps and warranties and legal documents candidly exist for something like this. Meaning, if the seller knew that their main person was going to quit because I bought the business and didn't disclose it, that's actually a breach of contract.
Sure.
So just as an aside, when you hear some deals that go sideways, this is actually a good example of something that happens more often than not, that if a seller knows about it in advance, there could be issues. If they don't, then unfortunately, it's the buyer's issue, and that's what happened with me. So one thing I would have liked to know is that she was going to quit.
Okay.
The other thing I would have liked to have known, again, just on this specific deal, is that my assistant manager, who was capable of doing the manager's job, that she had a habit of cocaine.
Oh, that would have been a good thing to know too.
So it took me about 3 or 4 weeks.
This was in the 90s.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. So again, what would have been good to know? Number one, first manager would quit because of her husband. Number two, second manager would quit. Other thing that I would have liked to have known is I'm very. It's funny because I'm very trusting, but I'm also very calculated and cold at the same time when I need to be. So I don't know how those coexist, but I have a very trusting nature. When I meet somebody, especially a new employee, I think, hey, if you tell me you can do a good job, that you're going to do a good job, and I trust you. And I think if I treat you well,
up to a point. Well, I'm kind of the same way, Alex. I don't understand.
Well, early in my career, there was no up to a point. So the other thing I would have liked to have known was that some people don't change their spots in employees. And I had one guy that actually went to prison, which was, I have a lot of friends that have come out of prison, so I have no judgment towards them. But this particular fellow who'd been in and out, I really bonded with him and took care of him and paid him right and did all the right things. But he had a problem with drugs. And what I didn't realize, when people have problems with drugs, they'll do and say anything. So I was being told that I was doing drugs. He was telling people that I was doing drugs, and started just doing nefarious things in my little business. So number 3 would be don't trust what all your employees tell you.
So we're 3 for 3 on people issues.
You notice that?
That have absolutely nothing to do with the numbers of the transaction.
Yeah. You know what? All of the number side.
Yeah.
0. I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I mean, solid.
Yeah.
And that's actually a great point. All the people.
That's why we call this podcast, it's kind of a play on words, P&L, priorities and lifestyle, because there's the P&L sheet, that's important.
Right.
But what's really important is kind of what's behind all that. And that's, so 3 for 3 people issues. Yeah. Wow.
And honestly, if I had more, that'd probably be all people.
Yeah.
I mean, the numbers were the numbers. I mean, it's a basic blocking and tackling business. Back in the 90s, you had Valpak. Remember Valpak? It probably still exists now, but not as super strong back then. You send out a bunch of Valpaks. There's so many neighborhoods in Texas. I'm one little small made company. It was very easy to keep the engine rolling. The costs were the costs, the revenue, the pricing was good, and the materials were inexpensive. So, the business, and that's kind of why I wanted it. Like, it's a made company. I can, even though I kicked my butt, I thought I can at least run this. But yeah, you bring up a great point. The numbers and all that are concrete and they're objective and they're easy to manage and they're easy to fix and understand. The people side is the part that you just either have to be that person that has a gift for it, or you have to force yourself to understand the people element.
Yeah, or have those people in place. So I told you beforehand that I kind of wanted to talk about lifestyle businesses, kind of like the maid service that you bought, and a certain segment of, I think, what you buy and sell or would be considered a lifestyle business, which I'll define. I don't know how to define it. I think I would define it as, well, it seems like somebody doing exactly what you did. They're doing a job, for somebody, and now they want to go and work for themselves, whether it's a second career or it's early in their life, like when you did yours. You've bought this business to basically, create an income for yourself as the owner of this business. That makes sense, right?
Yeah. No, absolutely. Okay. And look, lifestyle businesses don't get confused with size of business.
Oh, I agree with that.
Those are mutually exclusive. Most lifestyle businesses are small.
Yeah.
They
don't have to be.
But they don't have to. I mean, a lifestyle business, the way that I think most people would define it, loosely at least, is a business that exists without the importance of them being there. And they have the ability to grow it or reduce it based on how much they want to contribute.
I like that definition.
That's kind of
we went way off. We're kind of making up our own definitions.
That's all right. We'll talk about
but I like that. I like that one. So a lifestyle business. So I can go, I have this business, I have an income, and I have the freedom to go and do other things.
Right. Lifestyle business is a dream for most investors. Now, lifestyle business will make less than a financial business because it's at the whim of that owner. If they get to a certain point, they're making enough money, they don't want to work anymore. This is a dream to be in, where you match what you make versus the time that you have, and you're able to have a lever to make it whatever you want. That's
mailbox money.
Right.
Yeah.
Some people would say, I want zero lifestyle. I want 100% financial gain. Awesome. Plenty of businesses out there. That's not a lifestyle business. Some people, like myself, and I think like yourself, say, listen, I've been very blessed in life. I've already made a good amount of money. I have a certain family, work, relationship that I want to achieve. And if you're in a business that allows you the latitude to spend as much or as little time as you want, that's a lifestyle business.
So I guess it can also be defined as the value itself may, in a financial business, you're trying to grow the enterprise value as fast as you can for a future transaction. And maybe a lifestyle business, that's not necessarily the goal. The goal is more the income and the freedom.
Right. You can achieve both. I have seen people achieve both. But, I mean, just think about it logically. If I'm 100% business and 0% personal, but then I decide I want to be 60% business and 40% personal, and you're the owner, and even though you have employees, every business owner knows what I'm about to say. There are secret magical things that we do that employees cannot do.
Right.
They're not smart. We're not smarter than them.
No, it's not.
We look down the whole time and are able to look in things in a global manner And when we can see, okay, this isn't working, and you push it over. So because of that, you might not be able to maximize an exit as much. But what I tell most lifestyle business owners is eventually when you know you're ready to sell, for a year or two, make it a real business. You know, either be there full time or get somebody to replace you to be full time. But yeah, lifestyle businesses, what every person in America sitting behind their desk, it was me in 1998 is looking to do.
Yeah. And I like that. You said that, you know, certainly that the business owner has you said kind of like, I kind of think of it as a unique perspective that you can't delegate. You can't delegate the perspective that you have as a business owner. And the other thing around lifestyle business that I think is interesting, like you said, that it's important if you are looking for a future transition, and we always say on this show that there will be a transition, whether you plan it or not.
You're either going to sell it or close it down.
Yeah, something's going to happen.
There's no other option. It'll continue, sell, or close.
Yeah. I mean, that's going to happen. You can either control that or you can let it control you, right? But at that point, you know, definitely trying to think about the enterprise value and about, you know, maximizing that value is important. But sometimes there are other crossroads that come up as well. I think, you know, earlier in business, maybe you see a unique opportunity that comes around. You're just kind of kicking for a while, and then all of a sudden you see this and you go, wow, okay, well, we can really grow in this area, for instance. Let's go do this. And then you have to kind of have a moment with yourself and decide whether that's really what you want.
Yeah. No, it's, you know, I love being a business owner. You know, 25 years of trying to pull and again, I'm in a different industry, kind of like you, where I don't sell a product, or I don't sell a product or something tangible. You know, so and the way that we get paid is so different. We are 99% success fee based.
Sure.
So the way that we operate is very singularly focused. You know, which I think makes it a little easier for me to manage. But having the ability to, you know, create the team of size that you want. You know, everybody's different. You know, there's a Harvard study that talks about, do you want to be rich or do you want to be the king? I don't know if you've ever read that study. It's a fascinating. I talk about it so much I should probably remember the name of the actual study. But
do you want to be rich or do you want to be the king?
So basically, a king is a lifestyle. I want to be king. I don't want to be rich. Luckily, I've been able to achieve some financial gain. Being rich is all about taking a different road, spending your time there 100% of the time. It's your only singular focus. You're all in. You're going to grow it. Being king is all about mastering your domain here and what you're good at and creating this environment to fit your lifestyle or who you want to be. So it's king versus being rich. It's a fascinating study because it affects a lot of different decisions. You know, to your point, if you have two businesses and you have the opportunity to grow into a new line, but there's going to be an investment that's going to be made, and it may or may not be successful, and you really have to think about it. The rich person would say, we're going to take that risk and we're going to move forward. The king is going to say, probably, I'm not going to take a risk. I'm just going to continue on my slow and steady path here. It's almost like the turtle and the hare, I would say. King's more of a turtle King's more a turtle, and the hare is more the rich guy.
Yeah, that's interesting. I like that. And I would say that as I've watched business owners, you know, grow in their business from, let's say, a founder. A founder is nearly always kind of in the rich sector, you know, taking the risk, and then eventually over time, those risks pay off, and then they start turning more and more into a king. In other words, they're not necessarily taking the same level of risk they did in the early stages.
That's interesting. I never thought about that. Maybe I wanted to be rich when I was younger. You know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, you're probably right.
I think we all go through that. I think initially you have to go ahead.
That's a great point.
You have to go ahead and take that risk. You know? But then later, see, that's our job in our business is to kind of take them and go, whoa. You know, you don't have to do that anymore. As a matter of fact, it would behoove you to maybe not take as much risk at this point. You can still make a good return, and you can make it smarter, by diversifying and those types of things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. So when you're talking to these buyers, let's say, because I don't get to talk to very many people on the buyer side, so I want to talk about that a little bit.
Okay.
So these buyers that come in, obviously some of them are big money, like private equity players, stuff like that. Okay, but some of them are maybe looking for that lifestyle business. What do your buyers kind of look like?
Yeah. So there's two different sets of buyers because our deals. So you call those business brokers at the beginning of the presentation, which is fine. But let me segregate kind of what spaces there are. Business brokers play pretty much in deals that are maybe under $500,000. Nail salon, dry cleaners, convenience store, liquor stores, cash related.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that it was that low.
Yeah,
okay, I was thinking like 10 million and below. Maybe.
Well, but it depends who you talk to.
Okay, sure.
And some people, the term business broker. So as you can understand, when you work in that space, having a term like business broker sets a certain type of idea of businesses.
Okay.
Merger and acquisition is the fancy way. M&A advisor.
Right.
Of really saying business brokers too, because you're right. Business broker, that title really is used up to $10, $20 million deals.
Okay.
I'm bringing that up because those are different buyer bases. So a business broker deal, a true business broker deal, is usually going to be a small side business that's probably under, like I said, $500,000.
Okay.
Those usually have poor financials. Usually there's a lot of owner financing, and they're usually in the retail space.
Okay.
I'm going to put those off for a bit.
Yeah.
The deals that we work in are really more kind of $1 million to $100 million. Okay. But that's a wide space.
That's very broad.
A $1 to $6 or $7 million deal is one type of buyer. That is your corporate America. I've got $100,000 or $200,000 to put down. I'm going to buy $1 million to a $7 million business. I'm going to use SBA funding. I'm going to have the seller participate with a 10% owner note. It's all going to get done in 3 months. That's a very...
So those guys, I know those guys and gals. Because I mean, those have been clients of mine for almost 30 years, and I've seen those transactions over and over. Those are like, I don't know, just salt of the earth scenarios.
We call it the SMB, small medium business.
SMB.
SMB is what this little market is called.
Okay.
That's the market we play in. That's where 80% of the businesses are. That's where most of the volume is done.
Absolutely.
And that's really where our services are maximized, because that person does not have a team of experienced professionals like a $7 to $100 million deal, which is which we also work in, which is a totally different type of buyer.
Totally different deal.
That's a private equity group. That's a Goldman Sachs coming in. That's a different field. So for our discussions, this $1 to $7, $1 to $10 million is a deal where anybody can get into, because the government has done an excellent job with this SBA. SBA is something that everybody should know about. It's like Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. They don't lend any money. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, they guarantee home mortgages.
Yeah.
The SBA guarantees loans. So if I want to go to your bank and I say, I'm going to buy a landscape company, it's got $300,000 in cash flow, I'm going to pay $1 million, and it's got $50,000 of used lawnmowers and vans, you're going to say, no, thank you.
Why am I going to say no, thank you?
Because there's no assets. I'm saying if you don't have the SBA.
Yeah, I understand. So I'm the bank, and so all I have to collateralize is $50,000 of used lawn equipment.
You're not going to do that. Or you might do it, but you might ask me for 50% down, and you might do it in a 5-year time frame.
Yeah,
okay.
I got you.
The SBA says, hey, Mr. Banker, we're going to guarantee 75 to 90%. And you say, oh, sounds like a good deal. I am now going to provide 10-year amortized loans. I'm only going to require 10% down, and it's going to be fixed or variable, at prime plus 2.5%.
Yeah.
With a loan product like that, that makes the market that I play in viable.
Oh, yeah.
Without it, I'd have to go to the owner and say, hey, I think we can get 20% down. Let's say you want $2 million. I think I can get 400 down from the buyer.
Yeah.
I would like you to finance $1.6 million. At which point they would all say the same thing. Well, if I'm going to finance it, why don't I just run it? I'd make the same money. I know the speech that's coming already.
Oh, yeah.
So luckily, that doesn't exist. Now, 10 years ago, the SBA shut down for 5 months. I sat around like this.
I'm trying to remember
when
that.
the government shut down.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
And I just sat around. No. The SBA shut down. Sorry. Whenever the government shuts down, we're in trouble because they shut down the SBA. Yeah. But there was a time when the SBA shut down and nobody knew what was going to happen. And I mean, you want to talk about a career ender.
Well, that's just like if you're in real estate and residential real estate, and
they say there's no more home mortgages.
No more home mortgages. Right. But I love the way you compared and contrasted that to Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. I'd never really thought of the SBA the same way, but they certainly, I guess, grease the skids for that type of transaction in a very similar manner.
That's the buyer pays for it, meaning there's an SBA guarantee fee. It's like 2.5% of the loan.
Yeah.
So you get $1 million loan, you pay
just like PMI or mortgage insurance.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. So the SBA makes all this viable for that market. What does that buyer look like then? So you said a corporate buyer. You said, so what does that buyer look like typically?
Last buyer was a 32-year-old systems engineer that bought a small AV company, home AV company.
Home AV, yeah.
Another guy, a father and a son that have bought 2 other businesses that used SBA and bought a $1 million aluminum distributor company.
And they were already business owners prior to that.
Business owners.
The other one, the systems analyst.
Brand new guy that came out of nowhere to buy.
And he obviously has the technical abilities.
He has the technical abilities.
Yes.
But what do you think he doesn't have as a systems engineer?
The people skills. Yeah.
I feel so bad for him. We're doing everything we can to help him.
Yeah.
But when you own a home AV company,
think
about what you're doing.
Think about who your customer is.
$3 million house.
Yeah, you're in South Lake and Colleyville and Highland Park, and you better have some really good people skills.
Yeah. Another good podcast, honestly, would be Should You Buy a Business?
That would be a really good one.
Because I will tell you, I was just about to say I can look at a buyer and tell you if they're going to succeed or not, but I have been proved wrong in the last couple of years. Buyers that I thought were going to kill it just bombed. And buyers that I thought had no chance just are flourishing. But the overall trade, that I call those guys the exceptions. The overall, there is a common theme to, here's the worst buyer. Works in corporate America, has a department for everything. This person doesn't actually do anything. And then they have to go into a small business and have none of those people around. They don't do well. Like psychologically.
Well, that's interesting because you would think that, so corporate America, they have to have some really good people skills to be able to manage all these different people in these different departments because they're all infighting with each other. And I've, never was in that world.
They should have a lot of stuff. We all should have a lot of stuff. Most of them don't. Most of them don't. I don't want to speak for all of them.
Yeah,
and again, I was the same
that
person. I'm not berating these people. I was that person.
Yeah.
It's different. Talking to somebody in corporate America is different than talking to your $18 an hour employee that's coming to you and saying, something that you've got to do. It's different.
It's a different language.
It is applicable for sure. But it's just that person.
So that person is going to have a hard time.
And the guy that can't sell. That is, no matter what business you buy, no matter how removed you are, you're always selling. You're always selling.
That's the
private
sector.
We're selling right now.
Absolutely.
An engineer isn't going to have a podcast to get that one viewer who may happen to want to use his service.
They can still succeed, but they're going to have to surround themselves with some people.
No question about
Yeah.
it. I'm not saying they can't.
Yeah.
But what does surround yourself mean?
It means money. It does.
So if you have a small business and you're trying to budget, and then you realize, oops, I have a gap in my skill set, and I need help with, let's say, marketing and finance, because sometimes this is a double whammy. They don't know how to sell and they don't know how to keep the books.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, those require
those
people,
are important too.
And those require dollars. And sometimes you have a small business and you don't have that budget. So it's like a perpetual downward sometimes.
I'm so glad we talked about the people stuff, because on past podcasts, that's hard to say, by the way, we've talked a lot about how important it is to have some finance skills, which it is. And I'm in finance, accounting degree, I do numbers and stuff. So naturally, I would think that was important. But man, this people stuff is so huge.
I'll give you I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, no.
I gave you a perfect example. So I bought a business 24 years ago. And then I've had the Vant Group for 24 years. But I have bought and sold or started 20 other businesses. Because even though I said I love to buy, remember I said I love to buy and to sell and I didn't like to run in the business?
Yeah.
Well, you remember I told you how I get paid? How do I get paid? Commission.
Off the transaction, yeah.
How constant are commissions?
No, they can be few and far between sometimes,
Right.
especially if they're big transactions.
Right.
Yeah.
So over my career, I realized that I'm very blessed within my commission structure, but there's peaks and valleys, and I love having consistent income. So that's why I've always had a business. I've been in healthcare, IT staffing. I've been in funeral program printing business, most profitable business I ever had. IT staffing, whole bunch of different.
Yeah.
So I'm in the catering business. Now I'm getting to your point about the financial versus the people and how, anyway, so I have this catering business and I'm a numbers guy. When I buy or analyze a business, it's all about the numbers. The number of employees is a number. It's not a people thing. It's a number of employees. Mm-hmm. How long they've been there to me is an indication of their happiness. Again, the numbers tell me what most people would talk to somebody for. I think the numbers are beautiful. I really do. I'm like that beautiful mind guy that sees all the weird numbers in his head. And it took about a year to understand the numbers. I need to be 30% cost of food, 30% cost of labor. It would yield me a 30% net profit each month. And every month
30, we see that everywhere.
Right.
But
I track, no. But normally it's 30, 30, 30, 10. Mine is 30, 30, 10, 30.
Gotcha.
30% profit. Most small businesses have a 10% profit.
Yeah.
I bought this business because it had a 30% profit. So once after a year, you start tracking the numbers and you're like, okay, the numbers, we're going to order the same. We know how many people to put on labor. We've got our expenses fixed. After that first year, for the next 5 years, all of my issues and all of my problems were handling my staff. Mm-hmm. Because in order to keep my 30% profit, I had to make sure that my staff was taken care of. So it's funny, you get the numbers out of the way as quick as you can, and you really should be focusing your time all the time around people. Yeah. I don't do a good job doing it. I try to make sure that I have a manager in place that has my direction to do it. But I think that's the most important. I don't spend enough time doing that. I don't think most owners spend enough time doing that. If you lie your head at night and think about how are you making those dollars that are going into your bank account, well, they're all those people now they're your clients, of course, but it's really the people that are in your business. And I think as business owners, not only should we be doing it just because it's the right thing to do, but it's also a smart business decision. The happier they are, the lower your turnover is. I would much rather bonus and pay overtime to existing employees than bring in strangers. Little things to do to just keep your employees happy.
Yeah. Oh, that's well said. Mm-hmm. Okay, so going back, we talked about the maybe somebody coming out of big corporate America may not necessarily have all the tools that they need to be an entrepreneur and buy a business. who would you see as having some really good background to be able to do it? That hasn't, like your father and son, they don't count because they had a business before. But who do you see that has kind of been on a track, hasn't been a business owner, but is probably going to have some really good tools to succeed?
The best people are the ones that run a plant or a division and have their own they have their own business.
Operations guys.
Yeah, within a business.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's the guy that the owner hired to go open a territory. Think about their business skills.
So that's different than
being a manager of a division within a big company. You need to be the more autonomous you are within a structure, the better off you'll be.
I see. So you could be working for GE, but they sent you off somewhere to run some startup that they own, that they bought. They bought this company and they sent you in there to go clean it up.
Consultants, certain types of consultants are really good. Again, you have to be real careful. McKinsey consultants work in an avenue that may be larger than the SMB market, and even though the skill sets seem similar, the way that things work at McKinsey and the way that they work at a $5 million a year HVAC company are drastically different. I'd rather have a consultant that's not at McKinsey, but's at a local consulting group that's worked with $50 million revenue companies. McKinsey's going to work with IBM. Again, I'm not saying these aren't transferable. Don't get me wrong. But if I'm a heart surgeon, I'd rather work on that heart 1,000 times, that exact heart, than something that kind of looks like that heart. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's kind of how I feel about. So anybody that's had divisional experience, operational experience, and the more people that they would touch too. That's the other thing I noticed. A controller, a controller's a high level. A high-end accountant is touching a few people every day. The manager of a business is touching the clients, the vendors, the employees. That's what I mean by touches.
Or even like somebody who's true operations and working with probably could have 50, 100 reports to them on the floor, something like that would probably do pretty well.
Now, that doesn't mean that other people can't make it.
Yeah.
But like in anything in life, if you're going to paint a picture, of course, those skill sets, so that's one. Two, so here's some intangibles. Two, a supportive spouse. What does that have to do with business?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That's the most important thing. True financial liquidity. When I bought my business, I had $35,000. I put $33,000 down.
Had $2,000 back.
I had $2,000 back. That was asinine. I started off behind the eight ball. So make sure you have true financial liquidity and make sure that you vet that business up and down and backwards and sideways and know that even though you're going to do all that, you're going to miss a whole bunch of things.
So everybody needs to listen to what you just said like 2 or 3 times. If they have like a rewind, they probably ought to go back and hear that a few times because that was excellent.
Yeah. I can't tell you how many people I've seen buy businesses that they didn't really know what they were buying. They didn't really do the right due diligence. I've also seen many businesses that have been purchased that are excellent businesses that just failed.
Yeah. And I love the spouse support, because that's so critical because you really have to believe in yourself. You have to have somebody else that believes in you. And because it's hard, and I can think of some things, business-wise or otherwise, that I've succeeded at that I really shouldn't have.
Right.
But I had family support. I was just had a lot of determination. A lot of times that goes a long way too. Yeah. Man, this has been awesome. Great talk about business owners and stuff. I'll throw you a kind of a curveball a little bit.
Okay.
Because I know that your faith is a lot.
Absolutely.
About who you are and your success and so forth. And I feel the same way. I think that, that not only having that spousal support, but also having a true understanding of your own spiritual health is important. I know that's been a big walk with you, and you do a lot of really good work in that arena. Do you want to talk about any of that?
Yeah, I would love to. I wish we had started with this. I could have spent 45 minutes talking about it, and not the last couple minutes. That's why you saved it until the end. I kind of
thought that was going to happen, so I brought you up.
I'll start with the ministry that I have. It's called Equipped for Life, man. It's a Bible study that originated out of my backyard. We've now morphed into having a couple hundred men cycle through. Wow. I would call it a community of Christian men looking for the Lord who are helping and serving one another as well. Yeah. So youngsters come in. We've got all ages and races and income levels and income brackets, and people come in, and we call it a Bible study, but it's also a fellowship. It's also a place where men can come and really talk about issues. If you're in a life group at church with your wife and you've got an issue with pornography, there is no way you're bringing that up in life group. Or whatever.
So this is all guys, and then you also have I'll do a lot of outreach as well, correct?
So, and I have to say this because I said it on the last podcast, and all my brothers said to make sure that I keep saying this. Our place is like the fortress of solitude. It's like Batman's cave, where you can show up and you can open up your kimono to places where most men can't do. It's hard for men to talk about one another. But not only do we have the studies themselves, but we do a lot of outreach work. And specifically, besides mission trips and volunteering, I've set up a benevolent fund, which I'm really happy about. I've always been giving of of what I am temporarily holding of the Lord's. So my money is the Lord's money. So I've been able to pass it out because I've been very blessed. And I decided to take what I'm doing personally and create a platform to magnify it. Because there's thousands of men that would love to help other Christian men in times of need. I'll give you some examples. We have now bought three used cars for 3 of our Bible study members. 1 was a donation, 2 are loans. Because what you're going to find out is even though we've got a lot of money to give people, men are proud and they want to pay it back. So we give the option of a donation and a loan, and only 1 person has taken us up on a donation. And, we help people buy cars that they need. We help people go on mission trips, and we just help people with bills sometimes. It's what Acts was set all up for. It's for us men to get together, and it's only men-based. I have nothing against women, but I think that the way men interact and women interact are different, and creating a space where men can be men really helps.
Yeah. No, that's awesome, because I think that, we're all trying to be better business owners and, better at what we do, but, a balanced approach to understanding all the different aspects that make up who we are and make sure that we're working on all of them is so important, and giving back.
Yeah.
And giving back.
Well, and I think giving back doesn't always have to mean a donation, although we are going to happily be accepting donations.
Time and donation.
But giving back, and especially at work, I used to say I want to quit my work so I can go and do more evangelizing and do more discipleship. And then I realized I get to disciple every single day at work. And, you can choose to use your platform and your influence however you want to use it. People are using it for nefarious reasons. You might as well use it for glorious reasons. So, I tell people, my business turned completely when I partnered with God. Before I had God, I had a nice business. I made good money. I cobbled some things together. I found the Lord, and the Lord did not bless me. I'm not talking about prosperity here. I'm saying when I partnered with the Lord and I turned over how I was going to work and help people and do it in His glory, people noticed. I get a lot of referrals. People like working with the Lord. They just happen to be working with me. And I feel so lucky, and I encourage people to do it because they should, but then to realize that there are blessings that will follow that may be monetary, but they'll absolutely be emotionally, psychologically. You will feel the changes on how people interact. My clients interact with us differently, and I love seeing it.
Man, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that.
Absolutely. Thank you for asking.
And thanks for being just such a great witness and such a great guy. And appreciate having you on.
Absolutely.
Is there a way for, if somebody wants to get in contact with you and talk to you about really anything, what's the best way?
Absolutely.
And I'll put this in the show notes, so just tell us.
Wonderful. The name of the organization is Equipped for Life Men. It is a 501c3. The website is FLmen.com.
Okay.
It will be up around April 15th.
Okay. Well, yeah. Okay.
So just
and
so
then
people
what
know.
about to get in contact with you? Is there a
Yeah,
good email or anything like
the
that?
The best way to contact me is Alex at the name of my company, the Vant Group.com. That's the, and then V like Victor, ANT Group.com. Feel free to shoot me an email. I'll talk to any buyer or seller. I love talking about the process of buying and selling. We've written some books. One is for buyers, one is for sellers. If anybody hears this, they want a free book, email me. And of course, if anybody ever wants to talk about the Lord, I got plenty of time for that as well.
Well, thanks so much.
Appreciate
having you on. And for everybody watching, just remember that we put this out about every other week. You can subscribe to the podcast, and always encourage you to reach out to our different guests. They're here for a reason, because they want to talk to people. They have passion about the things they talk about. So I do encourage you to reach out to Alex if you're interested. Appreciate all y'all. Have a great week. Take care.